Assalamu alaikum and hello to my non-Muslim viewers. Today I'm just going to be making a very quick video explaining where you can find answers to problematic Quranic verses, etc., etc. Basically, Christian psychopath David Wood, same David Wood who tried to kill his father with a hammer and was thrown into a mental hospital by his mother, has been making videos mocking certain Quranic verses and stuff like that. Now, I don't have time to refute all the Quranic verses he's bringing up and stuff like that, but some of the Quranic verses he brings up are about the treatment of women, and there's a verse in the Quran that says that Jews are apes, or Jews were turned into apes. So he's making it seem like the Quran uses racial slurs against Jews and stuff like that. And this has to do with the Roseanne incident. Recently, Roseanne, the actress, an actress of Roseanne, I don't remember what her name was, but anyways, it's all over the news that she made a racist tweet, and because of that, Roseanne reboots canceled. So David Wood's trying to, compare this with the Quran. I'm saying that the Quran also has racist terminologies against Jews, calling them apes and stuff like that. Is this true? No, it isn't. Because the Quran and Islam are against racism. For example, if you read the Quran, chapter 49, verse 12 to 13, it says all mankind is one, and it doesn't matter what race or what tribe or what nation you're from. All mankind is one, and the best among you in the sight of Allah is the one who's the most righteous, or the one who has more piety and stuff like that. So Islam doesn't care about anybody's race, or Islam has no racism within it. This is a fact. And the Prophet Muhammad also said in authentic hadith that all mankind is one. So this nonsense about racism in the Quran is completely refuted, and there's no evidence for it. But anyways, I wanted to touch on what the Quran is talking about when it talks about Jews allegedly being from apes and stuff like that. If we read, and the Quran's not the only, the Quran's not the only book that has has words against unbelievers and things like that. You can find this all over the Bible as well. For example, in the Bible, in the New Testament and Old Testament, for example, in the book of Job, chapter 20, verse 7, it says, "He will perish forever like his own dung." So, and it says things like, for example, Jesus says to the Pharisees, or to the Jews, Jesus allegedly says in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 12, verse 34, "You brood of vipers." And Jesus also says that Peter is Satan in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 16, verse 23, where it says Jesus turned and said to Peter, "Get behind me, Satan." So and Paul also uses harsh words. For example, in Philippians chapter 3, verse 2, it says, "Watch out for these dogs." And this is Paul speaking. And in Revelation chapter 22, verse 15 says, "Outside are the dogs." And Titus chapter 2, verse 12 says, the Cretans are always liars and evil beasts. So the Bible, and there's also offensive terms used in Psalms chapter 59, verse 6 through 15, Proverbs chapter 20, verse 11, Isaiah chapter 19, verse 14, etc., etc. So there's all kinds of insults, found in the Bible against, sinners and unbelievers and stuff like that. So, but when the Quran is saying, "Be ye apes, despised and rejected, and transform them into apes and swine," we have to read who exactly was punished and why. These Jews were punished because they violated the Sabbath, and because of their sins. And this is found in Tafsir ibn Kathir. Tafsir ibn Kathir's commentary on the Quran chapter 5 verse 98 and the Quran chapter 2 verse 65. And the other thing to point out is that the Quran is not always literal. There's metaphorical meanings in the Quran. For example, in the Quran chapter 3 verse 7, it says there are some verses that are clear and some verses that are unclear. So they're metaphorical languages. There's metaphorical verses in the Quran. So you don't have to we Muslims don't have to take everything in the Quran literally. It could be metaphorical. An example in the English language would be like, when I say cat got your tongue, you don't mean like a cat literally. There's a literal cat, and that cat has its paws and it has your tongue. No, it means you're struggling to find the words and stuff like that. So the Quran also has metaphorical. In the Arabic language, both you can find this in the Quranic Verses and Hadith, that they're metaphorical. They're metaphorical phrases used. For example, with the Prophet Muhammad, there's a hadith in Sahih Bukhari where the Prophet Muhammad says, Satan is in your nose, or fever is from hell. But if you read Ibn Hajar's commentary and stuff like that, you can see and Ibn Battal and stuff like that, Ibn Battal's commentary on Sahih Bukhari and stuff, you can see these scholars say that, it's metaphorical, it's not literal. It doesn't mean there's literally Satan in your nose. It could be there's bad stuff or there's bacteria in your nose. That's why you need to wipe out. That's why you need to wipe your nose. And when it comes to fever is the heat from hell, it means it's a metaphorical. It's not like a literal. So there's metaphorical meanings in the Quran and metaphorical meanings in the Hadith. And you can find this in the Quran chapter 3 verse 7. So there's a metaphorical way to look at it and things like that. So that's all I want to say about these Quranic verses and things like that. I'm going to be posting links below that refute these so-called misogynistic, these so-called anti-women views found in the Quran and stuff like that. I don't have time to get into it, but it's about like wife beating and stuff like that. I already refuted that in previous videos, but I'm going to be posting a link to my blog site where these other specific individual verses about women and stuff like that sort of been refuted. I'm trying to save time and make this video as short as possible because I have a lot of work stuff I have to get done. So anyways, this is just my response to his recent videos, and that's pretty much about it. Thanks a lot.